And I think so we're worth fighting for. Canada's worth fighting for. Stand up and be counted. That we are stronger together. We can get better. We're getting better, but we're stronger together, and there's real examples there. And then thirdly, this is not this is a real referendum. It's not question about a question, free option. It's a dangerous bluff.
Mark Carney has broken his silence on Alberta's separation. In a public address, he linked the province's referendum push to Brexit and said the outcome would be the same: years of uncertainty, frozen investment, broken trade. He spoke from experience, having worked in London during the original Brexit vote. And he warned Alberta that the easy promises being sold today will not survive contact with reality.
The work we're doing with Alberta on the pipeline, which requires Alberta, it requires British Columbia, Indigenous peoples cooperation, it requires foreign buyers, it requires the federal government.
For months now, talk of a separation referendum inside the province has grown louder. What began as frustration around pipelines, equalization, and federal policy has slowly shifted into something heavier. Some voices in Alberta are no longer asking for a better deal inside Canada. They are openly asking whether Alberta should leave Canada altogether. And the Prime Minister has decided he can no longer stay quiet about it. Mark Carney did not soften his words. He did not hide behind talking points. He stood in front of the country and said plainly that Canada is worth fighting for. He said Canada is the greatest country in the world. He admitted the country is not perfect. He admitted there is room to grow. But he made one thing very clear: standing up for Canada matters right now more than at any point in recent memory. Then came the part of his message that caught everyone by surprise. Carney drew a direct line between the proposed Alberta referendum and the United Kingdom's vote to leave the European Union. This week marks 10 years since that vote took place. Carney was working in London at the time. He watched the campaign from the inside. He watched what was promised. He watched what was delivered. And he says the warning signs forming in Alberta look almost identical. He described what voters in the United Kingdom were told before they cast their ballots. They were told the change would be easy. They were told they could keep their passport. They were told they could keep their currency. They were told they could stay inside the country and leave it at the same time. They were told they could hold onto every single benefit while walking away from every single responsibility. None of it turned out to be true. What followed was years of uncertainty. Trade slowed. Investment paused. Businesses moved. Workers lost contracts. Supply chains that had taken decades to build were ripped apart in months. The promises made on stage during the campaign disappeared the moment the result was confirmed. And a decade later, the United Kingdom is still trying to figure out what its future actually looks like. Carney says Alberta is being sold the same script. He warned that referendum campaigns of this size never stay simple. They begin with bold promises and clean slogans. They end with lawyers, courts, border questions, currency questions, treaty questions, and trade questions that take years to answer. He warned that the moment a vote like this is triggered, the uncertainty alone is enough to damage an economy long before any actual separation takes place. Investors do not wait for final answers. They move first and ask questions later. Then the Prime Minister shifted to his second message: Canada is stronger together. And he backed it up with a real example. He pointed to the work currently underway on a new pipeline project, a project Alberta has wanted for years, a project that has finally moved into a serious phase. But Carney made it clear that this project does not happen with Alberta alone. It needs British Columbia, it needs Indigenous communities, it needs foreign buyers willing to sign long-term contracts. It needs the federal government playing its role at the table. And it needs cooperative federalism, the quiet machinery that has built every major Canadian project for generations. Carney said the federal government is not the owner of the project. The federal government is not the proponent, but the federal government is part of the team that makes it possible. Without that team, the project does not move. Without Canada, the pipeline does not get built. The same logic applies to new carbon capture technology being rolled out across the energy sector. None of it works if the country breaks apart. All of it works when the country pulls in the same direction. This is the argument Alberta needs to weigh carefully. Outside Confederation, Alberta loses access to the federal partners who help unlock these projects. Outside Confederation, Alberta loses the legal framework that allows pipelines to cross provincial borders. Outside Confederation, Alberta becomes a landlocked region negotiating from a weaker position with the same neighbors it once stood beside as equals. Then came the part of the warning that may matter most: the timing. Carney pointed out that the world right now is unstable in ways most Canadians have never lived through. Wars are reshaping borders, trade rules are being rewritten in real time, old alliances are bending, new alliances are forming. Capital is searching for safe places to land. And in the middle of all this turbulence, Canada has quietly become one of the most trusted destinations on the planet. Global investors are looking north. Foreign buyers are signing energy deals with Canadian suppliers. Manufacturers are shifting production into Canadian provinces. The country is being seen as reliable, predictable, and open for business at a time when most of the world is none of those things. Carney warned that throwing this position away in a separation vote would be one of the most costly mistakes in modern Canadian history. He used a phrase that landed hard: we should not mess this up. For Alberta, the stakes are enormous. A referendum campaign alone, even before a single ballot is counted, would freeze investment. It would raise questions about currency. It would raise questions about passports. It would raise questions about military bases, federal transfers, treaty obligations, and access to the rest of the Canadian market. It would put every Alberta business with cross-border contracts into a holding pattern. And it would do all of this at the exact moment Alberta is finally seeing pipeline progress, energy demand, and global interest in its resources. Carney did not tell Alberta what to do. He did not threaten the province. He did not lecture the premier. What he did was hold up a mirror and point to a country across the ocean that made this exact decision 10 years ago and is still paying the price. The message was simple. The promises sound good. The reality is brutal. The damage lasts decades. And once the vote is triggered, the country you thought you were leaving is not the same country waiting for you on the other side. Alberta now stands at a crossroads it has not faced in generations. The frustrations are real. The grievances are real. The desire for a stronger voice inside the Federation is real. But the path being floated by some voices in the province is the same path that led the United Kingdom into 10 years of regret. And the Prime Minister of Canada has now placed that warning directly on the public record. What Alberta does next will shape the country for the rest of the decade. The referendum has not been called. The vote has not been scheduled. The decision has not been made. But the conversation has officially begun. And the rest of Canada is now watching the province more closely than it has in a very long time.